Hey y'all, what's good? I'm back with another video. In today's video, I wanted to talk about how, like, if you look at trans people, if you look at the way trans people talk, the way the trans community operates overall, there is a lot of victim mentality. And I want to explain what I mean about that. In our generation, in general, society has become, we all have lost a lack of accountability and responsibility. We always want to point a finger, blame shit, be upset about shit, and I'm really fucking sick and tired of it. And trans people are no excuse to this situation. And it's particular situation with trans people, because being a trans person, it deals with having an issue with your gender, right? So you don't like the gender you were born as. There's some sort of incongruency with your birth sex and like how you feel like you should be in your head. So right there, we're dealing with something not adding up. We're dealing with reality and your ideal reality not lining up, and that's going to create something very uncomfortable known as dysphoria, right? We all know dysphoria. We throw that fucking word around, everything like that. And for a lot of people, dysphoria is a justification for why trans people are valid. For a lot of people, dysphoria is a justification for certain medical transition things that trans people go about and do. For a lot of people, dysphoria is meaningless. They are trans, they say they don't have dysphoria, or they don't really care about the fact they have dysphoria, or they just don't believe that you need it to be trans. Honestly, I could give a fuck about that stupid ass fucking circular infighty ass argument. It's really stupid. It's not what I'm focusing on here. What we're focusing on here is just the product of it, like what it is, right? So your ideal reality not lining up with what is real can be very hard, and for a lot of trans people, that's the first thing they never get around. For a lot of people, they put out this promise, right? They put out this ideal that if you come out and present in a certain way and, you know, take hormones and take these surgeries, then whatever your ideal is will become your reality. And then that dysphoria, that uncomfortableness with things not being the way you want them to be, that uncomfortableness will go away. That's what's sold to a lot of people. So a lot of people jump in on that journey without ever coming to terms with the fact that, hey, so I'm looking at my body and myself and how I was born right now, and my issue is that I don't like that, you know? And some things can't be changed, right? And some things like aren't even worth being changed at the end of the day. So if you can't come to terms to accept that, like, if I can't accept my reality right now and be happy in this, then I'll never be happy with anything I change. If you go on that journey without like being okay with where you are now, but just like trying to be a happier person, trying to be more comfortable, you're gonna fuck up. And that's where a lot of trans people go wrong, and that's where I honestly went wrong. So let's say you jump in on this promise, you buy into the whole idea, the promise of alleviate your dysphoria and fucking be the person you're supposed to be, all that shit, right? The shit that they sell you. And look, I'll be real, like, transphobes say that there's a narrative and an agenda of trans people. There is to a degree, but it's not all trans people. Like, a lot, trans people are fucking valid, but some of these motherfuckers, they do sell, like, a Cinderella-ass story. And I want to call it out, because I think it's important that we talk about it, and I think it's important that, like, a fucking trans person talks about it. But anyways, back on track. So you buy into this bullshit. And at a certain point along that road, this is how the decision-making is going to line up. The way I am is not okay, and I will not be okay until I am the way I ideally want to be. So you're going to take steps, and the first step, you're probably going to go ahead and get on hormones, right? So you're taking the hormones, and there's going to be some changes, and you'll probably be happy about that. But once you start to see that those hormones are not going to make you that ideal way, you're going to go to the next step, and then the next step, and then the next step. And then it gets to the point where you see trans women that have like 17, 18 plus fucking surgeries. You see trans women that you know, fucking go and get injections and get their lips done and Botox and crazy shit, fucking like all the time, like every week type shit, you know. They can't leave the house without doing like literally like a Hollywood level of fucking makeup, you know. It's really unhealthy shit to a degree, where if you never accept yourself before you start this journey, you know, you're gonna get to a point where you're trying your hardest to become the ideal self, but that idealization is probably something that's never gonna come true. So speaking from like a personal case, in my instance, what I ideally want to be is fucking impossible, because I didn't even think, I just bought into like everything that I've seen, and I would watch these like transition timelines. I'm like, if I saw like a big dude that was able to, you know, but you don't know the whole situation. So the type of body I want to have, I realize, is never fucking achievable for who I am. And to fucking go into this with crazy expectations did nothing but harm me. And then also something that I want to talk about that's very important is labels. Being put in a box, being labeled, is something I never fucking liked, and a lot of trans people don't like that. So that was a lot of the issue about you were born your birth sex, and they feel very much so forced to go that route, being put in that box, being labeled. Now what a lot of trans people end up doing is they end up coming out and then forcing themselves into the opposite box, which is incredibly stupid. I seen this when I came out and I'm a trans woman, right? And people are very much so like upset at anything that I do that doesn't fit that perfect trans woman role, which is why I now actually identify as non-binary. And learning that about myself and changing the way that I present and identify relieves so much stress, because I don't have to live up to a standard or a box anymore. The only box I have now is Janae, so I could just like literally just be myself. And like pronouns, I don't care, I use any fucking pronouns. And I could just be me. And I think a lot of trans people would be much happier if they understood that a lot of trans people are trying to fit into this box. You're a fucking square peg trying to go into the round hole, right? And it's making you fucking upset. And for a lot of trans people, you know, if you can transition, have a perfectly fucking goddamn feminine body and like pass perfectly, and you look like a cis female, and that makes you happy, and that's fine, right? And a lot of trans women, if you can't achieve that and you keep trying to achieve that, that's gonna run you fucking rampant. And that was my situation. So I got to a point where it's like, it's more so about my happiness. And for me, I gotta look good, everything's gotta vibe good, and like, I don't want to fucking try to look like I'm trying to be a female, because I don't look like a female. I look like I'm trying to be one, right? So like this androgynous space looks really fucking good, and I could still like express myself in whatever type of way, like feminine, masculine, like a mix. It's much more healthy and better. So what you want to do is you want to find out, like, what do you really fucking want? Are you upset about being a guy or a girl, and then you want to be the other? Or do you want to be put in that entire box and shit? Like, is the issue is being forced into a certain way, right? And here's the other thing, is that the medical shit, we don't know as much as people would lead you to believe. For one, if you're taking hormones, I took hormones for over 2 years. You're not supposed to be smoking or drinking, and that's something that I was doing, and that caused a lot of fucking problems. And I really like the benefits of hormones, but it creates this conundrum where, is it worth it, these slight benefits and effects on my body, to be taking a pill which has to pass through my liver, affecting my liver 2 times a day? I don't think it's worth it, you know, like the damages that it can have, and then getting surgeries and everything, it's just not natural. Like, if God intended you to be a certain way, I feel like you need to come to an acceptance and like work within your own bounds. But I see people trying to completely change their appearance, completely alter themselves, and they end up looking like a fucking alien, and there's no way you're fucking happy, right? There's no way you could be happy. And I know a lot of trans people are going to be upset by a lot of things they hear, because these are all hard truths. But at the end of the day, hormones, identity, how you're viewed, how you feel, dysphoria, a lot of these are being made worse by trans people. A lot of the shit that you're dealing with, you're making worse on yourself. And I can't tell you exactly what you need to do or what your problem is. You're gonna have to take a lot of introspection and a lot of fucking time to figure out, hey, what the fuck was making me upset? For me, it was too high of expectations, buying into a fucking fairy tale, and just fucking trying to fit into another box when being in one box was already a problem. So I changed this by, I didn't even want to stop taking hormones, it just ended up to happen. But I noticed that like I started to feel better, and like when I smoke and drink and shit, I didn't get lightheaded or want to pass out or feel woozy or weird or anything. And you know, I just felt healthier overall. There was like, it was the fucking spironolactones, it's also blood pressure medication, so it was fucking with me on like weird levels, fucks with your appetite. I would get random chills and sweats out. It's just so many things. So what made me happy was just being Janae. just being myself, being androgynous, not trying to fit into a box, not trying to be any type of way. So go ahead, go on your journey and figure out what will make you happy, because I'm tired of seeing trans people suffering when it's literally them being stuck in a cycle and they could so easily break the cycle on their own. Anyways, peace out, bitches. Have a great day.